good to see you again on a Monday morning. Let's start with politics, shall we?
I mean, 1 month to go until this by-election, and it is already on every single front page, and we still have 4 weeks to go. This is bigger than a by-election. Makerfield has become, if not bigger than a kind of general election, it's about sort of battle for the future of the leadership, but also the future of the Labour Party and what direction it goes in. It's unprecedented.
And then national politics as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And exactly, you have Reform who are... I mean, this is an open goal for Reform. We should kind of rewind a bit in terms of Streeting, opening, blowing everything open yesterday or the day before with his EU comments on Saturday, comments about wanting to rejoin Brexit, wanting to reverse Brexit and rejoin the European Union, which was a very clever, tactical, cunning, skillful move.
To neuter Burnham.
To skewer Burnham, because what does he say? He's on record, Labour conference last year, saying, in my lifetime, I hope we join the EU. He's now running in Makerfield, a seat which was very heavily Leave, 66% voted for Brexit. And what does he say there? And his camp have been saying, oh, well, you know, it's all about local issues. Well, when you're using the people of Makerfield as a stepping stone to number 10, it's very difficult, A, to claim that it's all about local issues, and B, you don't set the agenda. If people are asking you, what's your stance on the EU, what's your stance on Brexit? Meanwhile, Reform are rubbing their hands. I mean, they are going to throw everything at Makerfield, but also this is an open goal because people are saying, well, what is your stance on immigration? What is your stance on the EU? Those have become the issues now for this by-election, which I think Burnham was kind of thinking would be a safe route into the... Meanwhile, Starmer, we still have a Prime Minister, by the way.
And there is no leadership contest at the moment. There is this kind of shadow contest, this kind of contest by proxy, but nothing has been officially triggered.
No.
So you kind of have all of this swirling around, but as yet no one's pulled the starting gun.
He's still in number 10, but, you know, lame duck, that kind of, you know, he's not really in power because he has a top team. He's lost many of his top team, but he has a top team who have openly expressed, many of them, that they don't have confidence in the Prime Minister, in their leader. So we have this kind of very odd situation with Starmer. I've always thought that he'll cling on and cling on and cling on, and it now looks like he may have been... There was sort of rumours that, you know, he was at Chequers and thinking about setting out a timetable for his departure. But now people are coming out and saying, you know, Lisa Nandy and people saying, actually, he could fight on. And I think everything's shifting. He could fight on.
And there is a potential, because in 2024, Labour won the general election seat in Makerfield with about a 7,000 vote majority.
It wasn't huge.
It wasn't huge. Then in the council elections of kind of the last 10 days, 50% vote share to Reform.
Yes.
And obviously council elections and by-elections and general elections all kind of skew in different directions. But a sign of the level of support.
The general mood.
You could have a situation where potentially Streeting skewered Burnham. Burnham doesn't succeed in Makerfield. You end up then with Streeting versus Starmer and potentially one or two other candidates.
And then maybe...
does Starmer potentially manage to hold out?
That's exactly what I'm thinking. I mean, it now looks even more likely. You know, the turnout in Makerfield will be huge. I was talking to someone who's from that region. He said, people can't wait to vote. You know, and they wouldn't normally come out to bother in a by-election or in local elections. But now it's become so much bigger. And in that parallel universe in which Burnham doesn't get it, then what? Because he then has to slink back to Greater Manchester as their sitting mayor, you know, having said that he doesn't really want to be mayor. I mean, it's not a great situation for Burnham now. He really is in trouble. And then, as you say, it could be Streeting, maybe Miliband, maybe Rayner up against Starmer, and maybe Starmer survives. It really is like a Hollywood movie, this. I mean, maybe not such an exciting plot line, but it's... And I think it's beyond the Westminster bubble now that it's about a local by-election. Yeah. It's really exciting.
And especially if you are from one of those northern constituencies who often don't maybe feel as though they're on the map in the same way as some of the southern constituencies do. This is a real kind of focus. And what will happen, understandably, is you also get an awful lot of focus from the media, etc.
Oh, massive.
So
they know they're going to be descended upon.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I don't think we should underestimate that people feel angry. They feel that they can see they're being used. They don't like to be taken for fools. And I think they can see that they're being used by Burnham as a stepping stone to number 10, but also his people that voted him in as mayor of Greater Manchester, who were told that he wanted to serve, that he would serve a full term, you know, and the cost of it all and the lack of sort of focus on the issues that matter to the country. It's quite a time to be watching all this, and who knows how it's going to unfold.
Repeatedly said it. A lot of people voted Labour because they were fed up of internal party politics under the Conservatives, and 20-odd months after that, they've been rewarded, some might say, with a very similar situation and setup. And
the fundamental question over the Labour Party and the soul of the Labour Party and the direction it goes in and who and what they stand for, really. Because they got, we can't forget the local elections, they got absolutely trounced. And it really does now beg the question, when you have the Greens and you have Reform and then the Conservatives in the middle, but who do Labour really now stand for?
Interesting to see the former leader of the Green Party, Caroline Lucas, calling on the party to not field a candidate in Makerfield, to kind of shore up the vote for Labour on the left, because she said actually it would be beneficial to the Greens in a longer-term situation than just winning that one by-election. A story from page of The Telegraph that interests me. Parents face jail if they cannot steer their children from crime.
Yeah, these are proposed new court orders from the Justice Secretary, David Lammy, and he's looking at revamping parenting orders. And it was obviously, it comes in the wake of those terrible, the triple murders in the tragedy, triple murders in Southport, in which Axel Rudikabana killed 3 little girls. And which the parents, have been lots and lots of questions and discussion around whether the parents are morally responsible in those cases. And so David Lammy is looking at sort of beefing up parenting orders and making parents, firstly, more responsible for making sure their children go to school and follow any rehabilitation orders and follow any kind of court orders, but also giving courts more powers to jail parents, potentially, and fine them. You know, he could potentially be increasing that fine beyond the £1,000, which it currently is. And obviously, again, this raises a bigger issue around how parents parent their children, how responsible they are. And also, when you have a tragedy like this, and the parents, you know, did know, they had asked for help. Who is responsible? Is it social services? Is it the police? Is it mental health services? Is it the parents? Is it the school? Is it teachers? Is it all of those together? Or is it does that responsibility solely fall on the parents? I think it's a really, really difficult one when you have children, young people who are very, very mentally disturbed, as Rudikabana clearly was, and all the signs. But there's also that feeling as a parent that you protect your child. So it's very difficult, this one.
I feel for parents in these situations because, you know, when I was a kid, there wasn't the internet, right? You know, are you reading a book too late in bed? That was kind of the most kind of trouble you could get up to in kind of in the 1990s. Like, go to bed, stop reading a book or whatever. Whereas now the level of oversight is so much harder.
It's much harder
to control and maintain. And parents are parenting so often for the first time. You know,
exactly.
It's a joyous journey of discovery for both kids and parents, kind of going through that process.
But what if you had been going out with a knife? Would your parents have then had a moral responsibility to report you or to try and deal with it? It's very, very difficult.
I guess on the basis that parents have a moral responsibility and a legal responsibility to care and look after for the best interests of their child, right, until they're 18.
Or what about other people's children?
What about other people's children? But if you are kind of responsible for your child up until their adulthood, then that responsibility is an umbrella over everything, you know, whether that's the good or the bad, unfortunately. And, you know, these orders were brought in 1998. They've been around for a while, but it's interesting to see that they're less and less favoured now by the system. So there was 1,000 being used 2009, 2010, down to, what was it, 33 in 2020, 2023. And I do think a lot of people will look at kind of the rise of just this, you know, saddening content online where you see young kids just up to what is pretty dire behaviour. And always the question is, well, where are their parents?
Where are the parents?
In all of the comment sections, where are their parents? What
but
are the parents
it's so incredibly difficult. And I have a 5-year-old boy, and I just imagine in 10 years' time having a teenage boy, how hard that is. But I speak to many parents who say, I just don't know. You know, I do everything I can, but I can't know exactly what my children are doing online. It's a whole, it's a you know, terribly dangerous world. And monitoring that constantly, despite parental controls, despite all the kind of limits that we try to put on internet usage and online use and all of that, is really, really difficult for parents.
It is always important, I think, to also remember we are all very new to this.
Yeah.
You know, we only settled down into kind of civilizations 12,000 years ago.
Yes.
We've only had social media for 20 years. And
It's
as a
changing the way.
species, we just haven't really had time to come to grips with this.
No.
We are all learning kind of on the hoof. Just a brief on the front page of the Times. The Chancellor allegedly going to put the brakes on a 5p fuel duty rise. It was going to cost the government an additional 2.4 billion in a kind of lack of raised revenue.
Yeah.
But it just, I think, underscores the fact that amongst all of the local politics, all of the intra-party politics, there is still a war in Ukraine, there is still a war in Iran, there is still climate change, there are still all of the big pertinent issues. It's actually, it's a front page of one of the other papers saying, look, we're kind of going to end up in kind of stasis again for another summer.
Yeah.
And, you know, Rachel Reeves, I'm sure many will say, was kind of doing the right thing from the perspective of consumers. When you look at the price of diesel in particular, how it's soared by the pound, really, certainly by the penny, but by the pound almost, kind of for motorists. But underlying all of these front pages about Makerfield is actually the big issues are still there, and they're only getting more and more kind of entrenched.
Exactly, and that's why I think it's very, very troubling that so much of the political focus, the government focus, has been on these internal party issues when there are real problems going on. Cost of living rising all the time, people actually struggling, and as you say, trying to fill their cars, do their jobs, fill their vans, fill their taxis. You know, the prices at pumps are rising at their fastest level, as you say, since the invasion in Ukraine in 2022.
Yeah.
So, you know, that situation in Iran has not been resolved.
And it just also there on the paper noting Bank of England expecting inflation maybe at 6.2% at the start of the year, food inflation at 7%. If I remember the stat correctly, food prices will have risen 50% in the last 5 years,
yes.
which is what it took to do 20 years in the previous period. So, like, you know, the rate of food price increases is rampant. And, of course, once they go up,
they don't come down. And this hits the poorest the hardest. This is not discretionary stuff. This is food. This is basic food items and petrol, you know, and diesel.
Yeah.
So it's very, very tough on the poorest. This hits them the hardest.
A story on the front page of The Guardian that all of a sudden kind of, I feel as though then sometimes puts kind of a little bit of life into context, right? The World Health Organization declaring an Ebola outbreak and an emergency, and Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the head of the World Health Organization, kind of making that declaration before there'd even been a meeting. Such was the kind of the severity of the issue that's here. And populations in Uganda and the DRC have experienced this not just once, but multiple times.
Yeah. There's been 80 confirmed deaths, but probably many more, 246 suspected cases. And they're saying, you know, they are in panic mode. They are saying, we don't have a virus for this, we don't have the medicines for this, we are not prepared for this. Really, and it's we know Ebola is highly contagious. It's passed by bodily fluids, by vomit, by blood, by saliva, all of that. So it's very, very contagious. People are travelling more and more and more. And some of these sort of leaders in Africa saying, this is going to affect the West as well. You know, be aware. People are on planes the whole time, travelling back and forth. We have not got a control of this situation. It's been going since, I think, around March, so it's very, very concerning.
And it's stories like this that when people say, why does the UK invest in international aid or international development? If you can develop and boost and strengthen health and welfare provision in other countries...
Well, if the money can go to...
It will then benefit, ultimately, because, you know, we are a globalised world now.
Of course.
You know, and we have the issues with the NHS, but we don't have issues like this.
No, we don't.
And it is, I think, incumbent on other nations to try and support in these kind of moments. Surely.
Absolutely, and that's why we have the WHO. But it also needs to be about spending foreign aid in the right places, in that way, as you say, absolutely.
A little bit of a good news story, potentially, just to finish on page 4 of the Eye. North of England begins an Olympic bid for the 2040s Olympics. And I just look back on 2012 and just how much... That noise, how much fun we had in 2012.
Oh, that summer, it was amazing.
I think the nation kind of needs it, and I think the North needs it as well, because there are so many incredible cities, Leeds, Manchester, Hull, there's, you know, it could kind of head in all sorts of directions, Liverpool, in the north, and, you know, we're seeing multi-city venues already now in the Olympics. It doesn't all have to be London, 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 London. And I just think to kind of put the Olympics through the north, to have that level of joy that we had in the city in 2012, incredible.
As long as you don't end up with a load of stadiums being built all over different cities and then being left. Because I've got 2 words that I jotted down, exciting and expensive. Do we have the money for this? Because it's not cheap running an Olympics.
No. No, but I think it's good to have something to aim for as a nation.
And if it can regenerate lots of sports stadiums and local facilities and things like that, that's amazing. That really has an impact in so many great cities up north. Feels like a long way away, the 2040s.
It does.
It'll be here quickly.
Yeah, I'll be in my 50s by that point.
Oh,
That's
gosh.
you know, kind of the thought there. I was thinking about kind of though the impact of just the success in sport. You think about kind of the Red Roses in the Six Nations and the kind of record number of attendances now for the women's game in football and for rugby. Those kind of success moments do have a big impact. I think success here would be good too as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good to see you. Really good to see. Oh, let's go on this one. Really good to see you as well. All the details with Safe and Wilf after the break.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
We're in